Universal truth number 7. With great power comes a greater responsibility. Now, most folks likely remember that as the Uncle Ben principle. And what in most circumstances you hear is with great power comes a great responsibility. However, perhaps I am misremembering, or at least one iteration of the Uncle Ben principle said, with great power comes a greater responsibility. And I think that is actually truly the case. Because if you have a great power, you gotta have a great responsibility. Okay, yeah, and we kind of get the gist of that. However, if with great power comes a greater responsibility, that means there's an additional onus on those of us who may have additional power, whether that may be wealth, societal clout, in a high elected office or whatnot. So that means directly proportionate to the amount of power you have, your amount of responsibility increases even more. And I feel this is important, and here's the reason why. Just because if you just look at society in general, whether it's over history or just even in the current meta where we at in 2020, we always see different individuals who have versions of power, whatever it may be, and there's always criticism. However, if those individuals are acting in a responsible manner, there's often less criticism. For those who have great power and act very irresponsibly, well, let's just say I think we have enough of those cases. And again, not to get into the whole political this, that, or the other thing, there's also a lot of tribalism, but that's for another video. But just as far as it goes for different individuals, whether it's an organization, whether it happens to be a particular entity, a company, whether it just happens to be a lone individual, when those individuals are acting, they will always be open to criticism because they are very often within the public eye, the public discussion. The more responsibility those take, basically if something goes wrong, if they accept responsibility, and even if it's something small that a lot of folks maybe even give them a benefit of the doubt for, if they actually owe up to it and take responsibility, that takes away from the potential to criticize them, as well as I think it actually helps keep society more stable as well. I said I wasn't going to get political, but I'm actually going to get political. So apologies on that. I was completely off. See? Trying to take responsibility. Yes, because as we all know, with 591 subscribers on this YouTube of Internet of Stuff and Things, I obviously have a very massive reach. So it is important to clarify. We all remember from a number of years ago, we had President Obama. President Obama, after one of his former Harvard professors actually ended up getting arrested by the Cambridge Police Department, he had come up and said the police acted stupidly. And he said that just because if you hear about dude man getting arrested in his own house, you're like, oh, this is this and that. And then when you actually delved into it, you're like, okay, there was a lot more going on. This particular individual who happened to be a white cop, he was labeled as racist, this and that. He was arresting a black man in his own home and stuff. When you actually delved into it, basically, Professor Banks, at the time, he got locked out of his own house, so he ended up going in through a window. His neighbors and stuff, basically, somebody saw a dude going into a house through a window. So, all right, you call the cops. You don't want your neighbors to get arrested. My other question would be, why is it that his neighbors didn't necessarily recognize him? I mean, I'm completely guilty of this as well. Aside from my neighbors on either side, I don't really know a lot of folks within my neighborhood. And again, that's another issue we have in society in and of itself, just not knowing who a lot of our neighbors are. However, the particular individual, the officer, also happened to work on the force doing anti-racism style training as well. But you want to know what President Obama did? He had the beer summit. You all remember the beer summit? You had President Obama, you had VP Biden, and the two individuals there, and they discussed it out over a beer on the White House lawn. Yeah, that sounds like if you screw up, you take responsibility for it. And this is something that folks can understand. I remember President Obama being heavily criticized by a number of folks for that. And this is one of those things where the greater amount of power a person has, that does have an effect. You can always make an excuse. You can always say, well, it's somebody else. It's this other person's problem. It's another person's problem. That's fine, but everyone affects everybody in many ways. And this is one of those things. This is why I get back to certain other truths where it's like a small kindness can go a long way, because you never know what another person has been through. But if there are individuals out there who have just such great power and they're not using that responsibly, they're not taking account for the mistakes they have, that just irks people to no end. So that's why I say with great power comes a greater responsibility as well, because if we can ingrain that in some form within society, within humanity, I think that will lead to a much better outcome. That's all I got for now. Thank you all for watching. Peace out, everybody. Stay safe, and long live the elbow bump.